Hello, I'm Venus with Galaxy Inc. And for this week's writing tips, we're going to be continuing on with our Elements of Writing series. We're on week 6, and this week we're going to be talking about protagonists and character arcs, and specifically character arcs having to do with our protagonists. Now, this is the 4th time that I have tried recording this video. I have had so many technical problems and lighting issues and whatever, so hopefully this time's the charm. So here we go. So when we're talking about character arcs, so a character arc is something that maps the evolution of a character or personality through a story. So while your main character, your protagonist, may be facing big challenges, character arcs have to do with that internal personal struggle. So having a character that remains stagnant or who doesn't learn from their mistakes or doesn't change, we call those static characters or flat characters. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that. But first, I want to talk about the 4 different types of character arcs. So the first one, the one most people are familiar with, is the transformative arc, which is, or the change. So you have a character that really does like a 180, or they change completely from the beginning to end, or there's something that they wanted at the beginning and now they've gotten it, or they've gotten their true essence, whatever. If you think about Luke Skywalker, he starts out, he wants to get off the planet, but he doesn't want to be a Jedi. But by the end of the 3rd movie, he is fully a Jedi and he has learned to overcome a lot of the issues that he had before. Harry Potter has some of the same similar character arcs. It's a lot of this hero's journey. So these kind of classic like quest stories. You have a character who starts out in a certain way. They're poor. They're they don't really have any powers or whatever it is. And by the end, they've achieved it and something even greater because internally they become a better person. Or not. We'll talk about that in a moment. We also have growth arcs. So that is a character who, even though the story itself is continuing on, they personally have been changed within that. So a good example is Jaime Lannister in Game of Thrones. His family's the same. The expectations and societal expectations of him are the same. But he goes through a transformative or a growth arc where he as a person becomes different to the point that he starts to re-examine his place within his society, his family, his role, and then he starts to make different decisions within that world. So the world hasn't changed, but he has, the growth arc. Then you have the fall arc. So that is the one where a character doesn't change for the good, they actually change for the bad. A lot of people use these arcs to show somebody becoming a bad guy. Like, well, look at all the terrible things that they went through. Of course, they're going to become bad. Fall arcs, they make good villains. But so example of that would be Walter from Breaking Bad. A very classic example at this point now. Hamlet, even though he is still kind of avenging the death of his father. Yeah, he does it by not treating people well, so it is a fall arc. Dorian Gray also kind of classic fall arc. So again, a lot of people like to create those kind of, it's almost like a plot twist, right? You're like, well, see, look at all the bad things. I have some problems with that, but where like it's like, well, look at all the bad things that happen and see how they became a bad person, as if people become bad because bad things happen to them. But I also think that it is realistic in our world to understand that not everybody has a redemptive or transformative growth arc, and our characters don't have to either. Finally, the 4th one, which is not really an arc, but I do include it in this, is the flat character. We're going to talk more about the flat character in a moment, but I do believe that is actually important because the flat character often has characters around them that are going through growth, but they themselves remain stagnant and don't change. So we'll talk more about that in a second. So how do we write these compelling, character arcs where our characters actually grow, whether for good or bad? How do we create that? So the first thing is you have to determine what your character's goal is, and not necessarily the goal for the end of the book or what the character will achieve. What does your character at the beginning believe that their goal is? So in The Hobbit, which I'm going to use that for all of the examples as we go forward, just so that you understand. So The Hobbit, Bilbo at the beginning of The Hobbit believes that he wants peace and quiet.
I'm looking for someone to share in an adventure.
An adventure? No Now, I don't imagine anyone west of Ree would have much interest in adventures. Nasty, disturbing, uncomfortable things.
No, wait. We do not want any adventures here. Thank you. Not today. No. I suggest you try over the hill or across the water. Good morning.
So the Hobbit, Bilbo, at the beginning of The Hobbit, believes that he wants peace and quiet. He wants to live a life of comfortability, and he likes being renowned as a good hobbit. Hobbits don't go on adventures, so he's just going to stay here and be comfortable and live his life, and that's what he believes, right? That's the goal, for his life. Is that what his goal ends up in the end? No, but that doesn't matter. That's not what we're looking for. We're looking for at the beginning of our character arc, what is your goal, your character want? And what do they think that they want? And what do they think they desire? Then we go, so that's kind of like the truth, right? What is your character's truth? Then we go to the lie. So the lie is, what does your character... what is the misconception they have about the world around them? So Bilbo believes in the beginning that hobbits don't go on adventures. So that's a lie, right? Hobbits don't go on adventures. Hobbits don't do these things. We stay at home and we do nothing. But also, the outside world doesn't affect what's happening within Hobbiton and within the Shire. And that is two very deep misconceptions. The first one, hobbits don't go on adventures, kind of encompasses The Hobbit, right? The second misconception expands into Lord of the Rings, because the idea that it never will affect them there is a lie. And the characters like Frodo have to realize that as the story continues. So then once you've determined the truth and the lie, then you have to move into what is the truth, the real truth that your character finally understands at the end. For Bilbo, he realizes that it's not about adventure. It's about finding your inner strength, and that your size doesn't really matter. And what matters is that you face your fears, and when others think you're incapable of doing something, you continue on because you have good morals and good ethics. And that is true courage, is pushing past even friendship to do what you know is right.
He's back.
It matters. I want to know. Why did you come back?
Look, I know you doubt me. I know you always have. And you're right, I often think of Bag End. I miss my books. And my armchair, my garden. You don't have one. A home. It was taken from you. But I will help you take it back if I can.
I think that truth is much better than the truth that he originally thought. The real truth of inner courage is much more interesting of a character arc too, right? So we have a character who is a reluctant hero because he's resistant to going. He's not really a burglar. He tells people he is. All right, well, he doesn't. The wizard tells people that he is, But that creates this well-rounded, or what I consider a half-moon arc, right? Where a character comes back at the end of the Shire. He's back at the same point, but he is a different person now. So that is our growth arc, right? So that doesn't mean that your characters have to go from flawed to fabulous. They can be kind of in between. Your character doesn't have to suddenly become a better person completely. It just means that your character needs to have the truth that they believe, the lie, and then the real truth in the end. So a little bit about flat characters though. So flat characters are characters that don't have an arc, right? So it's flat or static. They do still have a lie and a truth. They still have the things that they believe about the world, and they still have, their conclusions about the world, but they don't change internally. Okay. So a good example of this is Sherlock Holmes. Sherlock Holmes in the classic Doyle books does not change. He is the same. The characters around him develop character arcs. We see that Watson kind of grows as he goes. That's very typical of kind of mystery books anyways, as the mystery is the driving force of the story, not the character or the character arc. However, we'll point out that in the show Sherlock, the BBC show, it is BBC, right? I think so. In the show, they realize that people aren't, modern audiences are not going to watch an entire series and not have some kind of character arc. And so Sherlock was given a bit more of a character arc. So yeah, he's smart, but he also has to learn how to deal with other people. And so that becomes his character arc of learning a growth for him. And it is a growth arc, not a transformative arc, right? He doesn't become a different person. He just internally learns something and the world continues going on around him and doing the same things. Another character that's like that is Indiana Jones. Indiana Jones doesn't change at all in Raiders of the Lost Ark. He's the same guy from beginning to end. Everything he believes was true and is going to be true. But if you watch the movies, there is a character arc for other characters within it, particularly the love interest. And then, the thing about character arcs and flat characters is they can also be fun. So there's a classic movie called My Man Godfrey, which I think you can watch on like Amazon Prime or something, but really fantastic old film made in the 30s. And in that, the character Godfrey, he is a static, flat character. He does not change. He knows the truth. He is understanding of the truth, but there's craziness going on around him.
Who are you?
I'm Irene. That was my sister Cornelia pushed in the ash pile.
How'd you like to have me push Cornelia's sister into an ash pile?
Oh, I don't think I'd like it.
Well, then you better get out of here.
Oh, you bet.
Wait a minute. Sit down.
I'm sitting.
What's up, Duke? Need some help?
No thanks, boys. Got everything under control.
Done something for me. I wish I could do something for you.
Why?
Because you've done something for me, don't you see?
No, I don't see. But I could use a job if you got one lying around loose.
Can you bottle?
Bottle?
Yes, we're fresh out of Butler's, the one we had left this morning. It makes me feel so mature and grown up.
What does?
Having a protege. You're the first one I ever had.
You've never had any others?
No, you're the first one, and it's terribly thrilling. Not only does it occupy my mind, but I think it's character building, too.
Just what does a protege have to do?
Oh, you just go on buttling, and I sponsor you, don't you see?
It's getting clearer.
There is some deep truths that are learned at the end, but not from Godfrey. Godfrey's your straight man. I think is what they used to call him, the straight man. I think I prefer flat character or static character. He is your static character, and the other characters around him grow and change and learn as they move forward. And Godfrey is our dude who just kind of straight and narrow through the whole thing. And I like those type of characters. I don't think that they're bad. I just think you need to know what you're writing. Are you writing a growth arc? Are you writing a fall arc? Are you writing a transformative arc? Or you just have a flat character and the world around them is doing crazy stuff and the people around them are learning from them. I think that those characters are harder to write, especially with modern audiences, because we have an expectation of these kind of growth arcs and things. But I don't think they're impossible, and I think that you just need to know what you're doing. So my little bit of homework is I always give people a little bit of a challenge. I don't want to call it homework because then you won't want to do it. But I want you to think about your favorite books. And I want you to think about the character arc that is in them. Which kind is it, first of all? But second of all, what would it be like if that character didn't change? Would you like the book if it didn't change? In some instances, yes. Like Jurassic Park I love it. It's one of my favorite books. But the characters don't really change in it. They all know, they're all experts in their field. And what's the driving force is this plot and craziness happening, right? I'm okay with their characters not changing in that book. Think about that. Think about your favorite books, about their character arcs, which kind are they, and whether you would like them if they didn't grow and change. And I think that that'll give you an answer as you move forward in your writing to know what you want to do. So I did actually make it through the video, and I don't think I have to re-record. Yay! So I've been Venus with Galaxy Inc. I post new writing tips almost every Friday. If you think you're ready to hire an editor, you can check me out at galaxy-inc.com. I've been Venus with Galaxy Inc. I hope your writing is out of this world.